The final race of the season for Fanatec GT2 European Series, powered by Pirelli, is set to get underway here at a now sunny Circuit de Catalunya outside Barcelona. A lot of fog this morning, and that delayed things for an hour until it finally lifted. Now, though, it's a clear sky, it's sunny, it's warm, it's a lovely October day. And although yesterday we had the Pro-Am Championship sewn up in favour of Martin Koch and Reinhard Koffler, in perversely the one race they've not finished in the top three all season, the Am Championship is on the line today between Gilles Vandelay and Jean-Luc Bobelik, who share a Mercedes AMG GT2, and Philippe Pret aboard his Maserati. He's very much the outsider after a tough day yesterday, affected by penalties, but that battle is still set to rage. You've got a good race to look forward to as well, and one of the possible victors, Carlo Tamburini, is with Antonio Rankin.
Carlo, you've been off your winning streak a little bit recently, but finally back up there on pole. What can you do from here?
Yeah, for sure, our goal is to win today. I mean, we won in 4 rounds out of 5, and this is the last one. So we're going for 5 out of 6 at least, and yeah, hope to have fun from pole. I think our pace is good, just need to manage the tires a bit, because here is really tricky in this track. So first few laps, even if I can see that I'm not really on the rhythm, it's better to save the tires for the end for Leonardo and just let the others go, but we'll see. For sure, the goal is the win.
Have fun out there today, thank you.
A third pole of the season for Carlo Tamburini. He shares with Leonardo Guarini, and a win would certainly be a good way, if they can't win the championship, to at least round out their season. That car second on the grid is going to be started, the KTM, by Matej Rommela, that we've seen in World Touring cars in the past. Now, they were in the top 3 in the Pro-Am battle yesterday, Matej and co-driver Lennart Marianek, so they get an extra 5 seconds on the pit stop. And if you are a category winner, you get 10, and if you're second, you get 7. And if you're on your own, then it's slightly increased. Andy Cantu here, he is going to line up 4th on the grid. First time we've already seen him in GT2, sharing with the experienced Jörg Wiebahn, but Andy Cantu, quick driver, the American, moving from the GT4 European Series and doing a good job yesterday, although there was just no stopping the charging Mauro Calamia in the gold Maserati that won the race yesterday. You'll just see it nestling there, 3rd on the grid. And Calamia in his stint was able to take the race lead away from that hard-charging Andy Cantu. So the field then all good to go. And looking down onto the grid, number 1, Leonardo Guarini and Carlo Tamburini, the 2 drivers that share the Maserati, certainly potential winners. Now, where in the grid order are those fighting for the Am Championship? Well, Philippe Pret will start 6th, whereas 12th is going to be Jean-Luc Bobelik. So, in other words, he finds himself quite a long way back. There is Philippe Pret, who is not only here as a racer, but as a racing dad, because his son Louis takes part in Fanatec GT World Challenge Europe. He is looked after by Stefano Ortelli, his mate from Monaco. There's yesterday's winning car, the Roberto Pampanini and Mauro Calamia driven Maserati. It is Calamia who will go first, and is certainly going to be a man to watch in the opening part of the race. Looking further back, you'll see the green KTM just going out of shot on the bottom left. That's the car that has now won the Pro-Am element of the championship as you look down from the drone. And 2 rows from the back, door just closed on Jean-Luc Bobelik's Mercedes AMG, and he now looks to see whether or not it is going to be an Am title by the end of the day. It is unlikely that he and Gilles Vandelay will not win, but not out of the question. They have to serve an extra 10 seconds in the pit stop, though, by dint of being the winners yesterday. So it's a rolling start. It is 50 minutes. Yesterday's race started on a rather damp circuit, so they were given 2 formation laps. I think today they can get away with just the 1. And they'll be released shortly, with Carlo Tamburini then on pole position. Mauro Calamia, the man to watch on the 2nd row. Reinhard Koffler will start, the new champion, in the green KTM on the 3rd row, alongside solo driver Philippe Pret. Then Alfio Andrea Spina lines up alongside Simon Birch. Other names to look for: Bent Schneider is in the entry with one of the Mercedes. What else? And also There is newcomer Arthur Quist, who starts at the back of the grid. One car, I think it's Jean-Luc Beaubelic's Mercedes there, a little bit reluctant to get away, but it has done so now as the cars accelerate off on this formation lap. They have a chance, of course, to get some warmth into the tyres, and then they will all start to slot themselves into place towards the end of the lap. The pit window is between 20 and 30 minutes. It is 116 seconds for everybody, and then you add to that the so-called compensation time that goes in at the end as well. This is the grid. Carlo Tamburini lining up alongside Mato Homola on the front row of the grid, Mauro Calamia and Andy Cantu on row 2. The third row is where you find Reinhard Koffler, and alongside him is Philippe Pret. Then Alfio Andrea Spina and Simon Birch, who is kind of deserving of a good result after an up-and-down sort of season. Benjamin Ricci lines up alongside Ben Schneider for an all-Mercedes fifth row, ahead of solo driver Alexandre Leroy. He has a longer pit stop because he's a soloist. Alongside him is Jean-Luc Beaubelic, 5 times a winner in AM this year. Then Laura Kroheimer and Pascal Gimont on the outside of the 7th row, the 8th row being newcomer Arthur Quist and Seti Salmini, who is quite a long way back, surprisingly. He's normally a driver to conjure with, really. He's been a stalwart of this class of racing ever since GT2 was introduced. So it's a little bit of a surprise to see him a long way back on the grid. Yesterday, as I say, it was a win for Pampanini and Calamia from Jörg Vivan and Andy Cantu, and Lennart Marianek and Matta Homola took third. The AM win yesterday went to Gilles Vannelet and Jean-Luc Beaubelic from Alexandre Leroy, and third, Christophe Bourret and Pascal Gimont. So the field working its way now around this 4.6 kilometre long circuit. The HTP Mercedes, Ben Schneider at the wheel. One to watch on the opening stint of the race. Wim de Pundert, who is the man behind HTP Developments, will do the second stint. Schneider, of course, the 5-time DTM champion, will be the quicker of the two. We'll see what he can do about the regulars in the championship. Ben Schneider, now 60 years of age, twice a Spa 24 Hours winner as well. Slowly they come down towards turn 10, and this is the part of the racetrack where now they will start to get themselves into that 2x2 formation. Carlo Tamburini then on pole position, moving to GT2 this season after racing in the Italian GT Championship last year. He was runner-up in the Endurance Pro-Am class and third in the Sprint Pro-Am class. Leonardo Gorini has been a Lamborghini Super Trofeo racer. We've seen him briefly in the early days of what was then the Blancpain Endurance Series and the Gentleman Trophy, as it was then called, which is now pretty much your Bronze Cup. He had a spell in that. He's raced in GT2 for the last couple of seasons and was third in AM last year, now moving up to Pro-Am with the assistance of Carlo Tamburini, Lennart Marianek, who's raced in German GT3 and German GT4, and Mato Homola out of World Touring Cars, as well as GT Racing, lining up alongside, and then the very experienced Mauro Calamia on the second row of the grid. They come then now out of turn 13, make that run down the hill, and as the lead car as it is, the Lamborghini Huracan, will bail for the pit lane. It's going to be Maserati versus KTM, two very, very different ways of attacking the GT2 rule set. Here they come, up towards turn 14, and in a moment then, the acceleration will come from the Maserati of Carlo Tamburini, but he's got on his outside Mato Homola, who's going to be one to watch on this first stint for sure as the cars accelerate up towards the line. The lights change now. We are racing for the final time this year in GT2, and Andy Cantu, with 2 wheels on the grass, comes storming his way round the outside. Contact there. Homola gets a big biff from Tamburini. Thankfully, he's managed to hang on to it, but Andy Cantu leads into turn 1 for the first time, and that is going to get Matta Homola all fired up. Philippe Pret goes wide in the Maserati. He's off the road, and you've got to be careful how you rejoin here because you've got to be the right side of the bollard, otherwise a penalty comes. And whoops, drama in the background. 2 Mercedes have tripped over each other, and one looked like Jean-Luc Beaubelic's car being in the middle of all of that, the man that wants to win the AM Championship. So not a great start for Jean-Luc Beaubelic. There he is, and the other one that's off the road looks like being 53 of Pascal Gimont. So that brings out a yellow flag within the first sector, and now we'll see whether those Mercedes are able to get going again. So it's a rather feisty start, isn't it? What with the contact between Tamburini and Homola, there's more kicking off there, look, as Calamia gets roughed up coming out of turn 5, yesterday's race winner. So Mauro Calamia drops, almost calamity, drops to the back of the field, and the safety car is being deployed then. Safety car is on track now. Depending on whether Jean-Luc Beaubelic gets going again or not, this is going to turn the AM contest upside down. In the gravel is 53, so Pascal Gimont's race didn't last terribly long, that is for certain. And now we await to see what happened to 87 Mercedes. There it is, but it's got damage, got a puncture, got broken suspension. That's, I rather fear the end for that car. They might be able to do some repairs, but the danger is they'll take a long time and the car wouldn't do enough distance to be classified. So contact between the two Mercedes, and that is absolute disaster for Gilles Vannelet. And there, as Stefan Rotelli looks on, there's optimism thrown in the direction of Philippe Pret. So high drama in Am coming into this race. It was 207 points, plays 184, Beaubelic Vannelet versus Pret. Right, what is the next sting in the tail going to be? We're behind the safety car, the field turning its way up from turn 13. Race order, Carlo Tamburini led off the line, but then that bit of contact between him and Matteo Homola rather affected life, as you saw, and so Andy Cantu was able to put himself up front. So Andy Cantu leads up towards the line from Carlo Tamburini, and then in third place now as they come past the pits. It is going to be Reinhard Koffler having a better first lap than the car had yesterday. The KTM really struggled yesterday, whether it was a conscious effort just to go for points. The team didn't really cough up the information, but clearly the car was struggling for pace for whatever reason yesterday. It wasn't pitching for an outright win. In fourth place, it is Matteo Homola. Fifth is Philippe Pret, and leading his class, therefore. And sixth is Alfio Spina. Into the pit lane comes Jean-Luc Beaubelic's Mercedes. So is it purely a broken wheel and a punctured tyre, or can they get it going again? We'll see. Here's the replay at the start. Andy Cantu on the grass, and Carlo Tamburini. Oh, we've missed the contact, I'm afraid. The contact's already happened. But Carlo Tamburini and Matteo Homola making contact as they came down the pit straight. Homola then got a bit delayed at turn 1. Let's see where the contact is between the two Mercedes. It's towards the back, so Jean-Luc Beaubelic's car comes into shot, and where is the impact? There is the impact. So yes, he was off the road and came back on and clipped the back of 53 of Pascal Gibon. And there they both go. Gibon into the barrier. It's quite a big hit, actually, and he ends up in the gravel. And Jean-Luc Beaubelic gets going again, albeit with damage. Right, let's see now if we can identify that bit of contact between the Maserati and the KTM. There it is. Tamburini just moves across and presumably had no idea that the KTM was alongside him. Homola did well to save that, because that could have been quite nasty. Right, the incident between those two cars is under investigation. And the incident between Beaubelic and Gibon is under investigation as well. Jean-Luc Beaubelic is still in the pit lane. They are doing what they can to 87 to try to get that Mercedes back in the race. But remember, there it is. That car came into this leading the AM Championship. So they're looking at that right front corner and assessing what they can do. It's up on the jacks. And they need to try to get that car back in the race and score some points if they can. So this is not what Jean-Luc Beaubelic and nor co-driver Gilles Vannelet were anticipating. They thought they were going to have an easy run, just bank some points and take the title. Right then, Tamburini and Homola, that incident under investigation. That's confirmed from race control. There is Philippe Pret, number 2. Now, as far as this race is concerned, he doesn't have any extra time to serve in the pits, and Philippe Pret, who's had 4 AM wins this year, might now find himself heading for the title, depending on whether 87 gets back in the race, depending on whether 87 does enough distance to be classified. So Philippe Pret will perhaps have had that message on the radio now, telling him of his championship rival's problems, but he also needs to keep out of trouble, and one of the problems sometimes that teams and drivers find themselves with, track limit penalties, or yesterday I think he was too short on the pit stop, was Philippe Pret, so it may well come back to bite. Now Pret's already under investigation because he and 87, Jean-Luc Beaubelic, under investigation for not following the race director's instructions. Now that could well be what they were asked to do to get to the grid. The safety car's going to be in at the end of this lap, but Philippe Pret under investigation then for not following, potentially not following, the race director's instructions. The graphic on screen confirms what we knew. Koffler and Koch as champions, and Gorini and Tamburini are at the moment fending off that challenge of Thomas Anderson and Simon Birch. So they can't win. It's AM that we need to be looking at, where Philippe Pret is currently the class leader, but with that investigation hanging over him. Right, safety car will be in this time. And there, Philippe Pret turns his way through. So Pret leading from Arthur Kvist, and then Alexandre Leroy in third place. The other one that dropped back early on, Mauro Calami, at 10th, he was coming over the line. So the minute Bobelic and Vanelay would still be able to take the crown, they'd have enough in hand. But I think that's by giving them points for their class position rather than assuming they're going to be retirements. So we need to see if that car does rejoin the race or not. That's why they're working, to try and get the car out, because even if they just head to the finish 2 or 3 laps down and get the points, it's still enough to win that championship. So the cars come down now to turn 10, and as they accelerate up towards 11 on this lap, the safety car will extinguish the lights, and it's now up to Carlo Tamburini to control the pace then. So as they come through turn 12, Andy Cantu will control the pace. Carlo Tamburini right on his tail. Andy Cantu has been really impressive this weekend in his maiden outing in GT2, and as he comes down now through that right-hander of turn 13, we'll see what he can do on the restart then as they come down now. Everybody bunches up. Reinhard Koffler on his toes in third place as well. Andy Cantu then for Jörg Wiebahn, who will take over, accelerates away, lights go green. We're back racing here at Barcelona with 42 minutes on the clock as they accelerate over the timing line down towards turn 1. And the Mercedes has the advantage. Cantu tries to shake off the Maserati and succeeds in so doing. Koffler third, and here comes Philippe Pret up on the inside of Mato Homola, look, but he's not going to be able to quite level under braking. And Alfio Spina in the Audi right on his tail coming out of the corner. So good restart by Cantu. He leads the way. And there, Philippe Pret leads the AM battle, but he's got the Audi right up behind him as they swoop through the corner together. Andy Cantu tries to make good his escape, while Reinhard Koffler comes up to have a go at Carlo Tamburini for second spot. More Mercedes running side by side. 61 is Benjamin Ricci, but Ben Schneider goes through on the inside. Schneider gaining 2 places on the restart. So a good effort by Ben Schneider this as he goes through there. The silver Mercedes, and also looking pretty committed is the red and white KTM. That's in the hands of Arthur Kvist. Now, why is Mauro Calami dropping back? He's not been able to make any places up on the restart. He got roughed up early on before the safety car down at turn 5. He's just retaliated there, looked to go back ahead of Kvist, but Calami is struggling for whatever reason today compared to yesterday in that Maserati. Was absolutely mighty in his stint yesterday, but right now that car is not making the progress that it not only needs to, but was expected to. Schneider is on his toes, though. He has a look to get past Alfio Spina into turn 10. There's a gap on the inside, and the Mercedes rumbles its way through. So Ben Schneider goes by, picks up a place. Alfio Spina comes back at him as they make the run up towards turn 12, now on the outside line, but it's the slower line, and what that does is serve to drop Spina away from Schneider, and in the process, bring Benjamin Ricci just a little bit closer in the blue Mercedes. Spina fights back coming down the hill. Cantu getting away though as he comes across the line. Now the race leader goes through, still being chased by Carlo Tamburini, and now with Andy Cantu having done the best lap of the race, that gap is up to 0.8 of a second. In the background, Tamburini second, third, right on his tail. There you can see is the KTM in the hands of Reinhard Koffler. The way that it's going today does make one think that yesterday was just about scoring points, keeping out of trouble, whereas today, Championship 1, they can throw caution to the wind a little bit and see what they can do. Only once have they not been on the podium this year, Koch and Koffler, and that was yesterday when they won the championship. Andy Cantu putting a lot of energy into this lap. The car up the curb then as he fights it through turn 4 here. Comes out of the long right, drops downhill, left at 5, but the downside to all of this is whatever goes downhill, got to come up again, and so the climb will come out of turns 7 and 8. In 4th place in the background, Mato Homola. 5th still is Pret, and 6th is Schneider. Race leaders accelerate then through turn 9, and now from the right-hander down towards the run towards turn 10. Jean-Luc Bobelic still in the pit lane, and the car is out of the equation. It's 3 laps down as you see Schneider have a go on the inside of Philippe Pret here, coming out of turn 10, gets up alongside, but he's on the outside line for the next corner, can't go through. So Ben Schneider giving a hard time to Philippe Pret. Now, for Jean-Luc Bobelic and Gilles Vandelet to be classified as finishers, they've got to do 75% of whatever the winning car achieves. So the more laps it spends in the pit lane, the less likely it is to be able so to achieve. And that's going to throw the chances of the championship back in the direction of Philippe Pret, who is circulating quite happily and just now needs to keep out of trouble. Schneider makes his move on the inside, down now into turn 1, goes through. So Ben Schneider gains ground. Philippe Pret doesn't really force the issue. No need to force the issue because he is hanging on to that class lead. So Schneider now goes 5th. And Andy Cantu is leading by 1.5 seconds as Tamburini fends off Reinhard Koffler. That car able to turn on its tyres better in the dry, seemingly. Pret way up the curb there, coming out of turn 3. And Alfio Spina arriving on his tail as well. Spina is another in the Pro-Am battle. So Pret can afford, in a sense, to let him go. Losing overall place is not a problem. Now, Pret would be the champion. If you take Bobelic and Vandelet to be retirements, that gives Philippe Pret the championship by just 2 points. So he needs to win it. Can't afford to give class positions away. Giving overall positions away is one thing. Now, Philippe Pret has a 5-second time penalty at the pit stop for not respecting the race director's instructions. Now, what those instructions were, we're not told. They can only be, I would have thought, something to do with making your way round to the grid. But either way, Philippe Pret is being given a 5-second time penalty for not respecting the race director's instructions. So that's going to be interesting after the pit stop window closes to see if those 5 seconds do drop him off the class lead. Bearing in mind that he wasn't in the top 3 yesterday and therefore doesn't have any extra time to serve in the pits, whereas those that were in the top 3 in his class will. Over the line has gone Andy Cantu, and the leader now 1.7 seconds up the road from Tamburini. Then it's Koffler in 3rd place, Mato Hommler is 4th, and Schneider 5th at the expense of Pret. Spina 7th, Ricci 8th, Calamier is 9th, Simon Birch 10th as Spina pulls out. And as they drop down towards turn 1, Benjamin Ricci tries to go around the outside and then got a face full of Audi and had to back out of that. Calamier is back up with them. The gold Maserati there in the background, the Dynamic Motorsport run car. Bit of a slow burn in this race. But Calamier now getting on with the programme. He's 7.9 seconds back. And remember, he has, as the winner yesterday in class, to serve an extra 10 seconds in the pits. And he can't yet clear Ricci. On board with Calamier, down now towards turn 5. Side by side up the road ahead. So just ahead of Benjamin Ricci, Philippe Pret and Alfio Spina getting themselves together. And again, the drop downhill once more now. Calamier still pushing, but Benjamin Ricci still keeping him at bay as they head into the left-hander of turn 10. Philippe Pret well clear in his class then, so he doesn't really need to be getting involved in any battles, but for the moment at least, Ricci is a little bit distracted, keeping Calamier at bay. Up the inside is Ricci, to the outside line Calamier. Now he tries to switch sides, the Mercedes has a bit of a twitch, and through goes the Maserati. So through on the inside line he goes, and Mauro Calamier then gains 1 place. Finally, it's been a really tough start to the race for him, but he's gone by, and Calamier goes through. Now this is Philippe Pret in replay, and the instruction that was ignored wasn't going to the grid, it was his rejoin there. He should have kept to the other side of the bollard. In the background there was the Mercedes battle tripping itself up, but Philippe Pret's ignoring race director instruction was in his rejoin. There is a bollard that tells you where you can rejoin. It's got to be on the right-hand side of the car as you rejoin, not the left. In other words, he rejoined too soon, which is in a slightly more dangerous place. There were people in the Lamborghini race yesterday being given very draconian penalties for the same thing. So it's a 5-second penalty for the rejoin for Philippe Pret. He maintains the lead of the class over Arthur Kvist at the moment. And then Alexandre Leroy and Seti Samini 3rd and 4th. So I don't think the 5 seconds is going to compromise him too much, but were we to get a safety car in the second stint and they all bunched up, then it really would. So here the race leader comes towards us. Reinhard Koffler in the background has dropped away a little bit from Carlo Tamburini. Philippe Pret running on the road now in 7th place, and he'll get that 5-second time penalty served at the pit stop. There he is. The other Maserati right up behind him is Mauro Calamia, who is getting on with the programme now. It's taken that car a long time to sort of wake up. It might be the tyres that have taken a long time to turn themselves on today, but Calamia now is making progress before he hands over to Roberto Pampanini for the 2nd stint. The two Maseratis then running together. Pret versus Calamia here, down through turn 13. And a 10-second penalty is being given to number 1, Carlo Tamburini. There he is. Carlo Tamburini is being given a 10-second time penalty for causing the collision on the run to turn 1 with Mato Homola's KTM. Remember, he moved across and biffed the side of the black KTM. So Carlo Tamburini, 10-second time penalty for causing a collision. And that kind of sums up their season. Quick, but lots of bad luck goes their way, and a shake of the head from Luca Piri. Leonardo Guarini looks on as well, seeing the chances of a win ebbing away a little bit now. And especially so, given that Reinhard Koffler is not that far behind the Maserati, which he's struggling to stay with, the inspired Andy Cantu here. Carlo Tamburini making the run here down through turn 5. Reinhard Koffler, former single-seater star before the money ran out, and was sort of scooped back up by KTM, running in its various projects in different long-distance championships, but now champion in GT2, and there he is on the tail of number 1, Carlo Tamburini. Replay of that contact that gave the penalty. Look, just moved straight across. I think, in fairness, he expected that he was clear of the KTM as he tried to get the line. It was a good save by Mato Homola, but the stewards have decided that that is worthy of a penalty, and so Carlo Tamburini there gets 10 seconds that he will have to serve before the race time is confirmed and then his ultimate position. So it is being listed as a time penalty rather than at the pit stop. 87, which was Jean-Luc Bobelic, who was also off the road and being investigated for not respecting the instructions of the race director on the basis that his car is effectively out of the race. No further action being taken. Leaders go by, and Cantu to Tamburini now is 3 seconds, so the Mercedes is steadily building that gap. Mauro Calamia up into 7th place, but he's 11 seconds adrift as Benjamin Ricci gets up the inside of Philippe Pret now down towards turn 1. The Mercedes goes through, picks up the place quite nicely. So Benjamin Ricci goes by, Philippe Pret drops another place, and Simon Birch behind him in the KTM is another in Pro-Am. So Pret still safe. He'll be no doubt being given all this information through his ears from the team in the pit lane, saying, OK, you can let that car go, you can let that car go, but he can't afford to be losing too many more once Simon Birch gets past him. Otherwise, he is going to be in the realms of losing places to his class rivals. That said, they are all a long way back. So Philippe Pret running a long way up the racetrack compared to those that he's directly against within his class in the championship. Now, we're not far off the pit window opening. In some cases, you want to come in soon and put your quicker driver into the car. In other cases, you want to stay out a long time and maximise the fact that you are the quicker of the two. We'll see how Philippe Pret treats that in the Maserati. Given that, he's on his own. There is Pret under attack. Simon Birch has caught up to him as they come through now. And the leader, Andy Cantu, is about to make the run up towards the timing line. So Cantu through, 3.4 seconds to the good from Tamburini in 2nd place. Koffler 3rd, 9/10 back. Mato Homola 1.8 seconds adrift in 4th place. Then you've got Schneider 5th, Spina is 6th, Calamia 7th, still 11.6 seconds back off the lead. There 8th, Benjamin Ricci, 9th, Philippe Pret, and a flash of the lights from Simon Birch to try to distract him with coming down towards turn 1, but I don't think Philippe Pret is going to fall for that, is he? Into the pit lane has just come Arthur Kvist. The pit window is open, so he's an early stopper. So Arthur Kvist down the pit road. He is new to the championship and doesn't score points. That's Simon Birch up the inside. Kvist's co-driver, though, just quickly to make the point about Dominic Albert, he can score points, and therefore he is a threat to Philippe Pret here. So if that KTM were to win the class, bad news for Pret. He's got to win here, come what may. Pret drops downhill, and Simon Birch has gone by. And again, Pret didn't put up a massive fight there because he knows maintaining that class lead is more important and winning the championship rather than fighting a car that he doesn't need to. There's another of the AMs who is normally quick as well, Alexandre Leroy, a little bit further back. He is on the tail of Laura Kreimer there in the orange KTM. Alexandre Leroy was in the top 3 yesterday, and he will serve 10 seconds in the pits because of being a soloist, so he gets the 7, but if you're a solo AM, it goes up. You have it elongated to 10 seconds. So Alexandre Leroy, like Philippe Pret, deciding all season to go it alone and run the gauntlet of these longer stops. Down he comes towards turn 10. He does need to get past Laura Kreimer in as much as he wants to be getting closer to Philippe Pret and having an impact as far as the outcome of the AM class is concerned. That is Leonardo Guarini, who's 5K isn't going very far, but there's a lot of energy being put in as he gets ready for his stint. He will take over from Carlo Tamburini. Down they head towards turn 1. Andy Cantu, in the meantime, is 3.7 seconds up the road. Could that give he and Jörg Wiebahn a chance of victory by the end of the race? Well, Jörg Wiebahn, who has spent most of his season with Stéphane Perrin, is a new co-driver for this weekend. Down the pit lane comes Alexandre Leroy. He will serve 10 further seconds on top of the 116 in the pits. And it's the teams now, really, that have to be oh so good on that stopwatch to know when to release the car. If you're under, even by a 1/10 of a second, you can be in trouble. Better to be over by a 1/10. So the car controller will be studying his watch, knowing the drive time from pit in to pit out, factoring in that pit stop as well. There's the race leader. That's Andy Cantu, who is currently on lap number 12. And you can see he's managed to shake off Carlo Tamburini, who has got that 10-second penalty hanging over him anyway. And also, Tamburini is on his final warning for track limits. So this is kind of what's tripped them up this year, really. Tamburini can be quick, but he is prone to these little lapses that then incur the wrath of race control. So Carlo Tamburini needs to be careful. Track limit warnings will be reset on the pit stop, so Leonardo Guarini is able to push on, but Tamburini needs to be careful before he comes into the pit lane and not transgress once more. There he is in second spot. Koffler behind him. You can see how much more of the racetrack the Maserati uses. Hommel away up the curve as well, and he's being caught by Ben Schneider, who's going really well today. That car in the greasy conditions yesterday, the Schneider de Pundert Mercedes, didn't really come alive, but it's going nicely today. The gap Hommel to Schneider, 1.3 seconds as they head into turn 1 here. This is the view from out the front of that Mercedes as Ben Schneider accelerates through turn 3. Road climbs, back onto the power. Grabs a gear, short straight, and then down towards turn 4. They're second and third together, where Carlo Tamburini is still just being able to fend off the challenge of Reinhard Koffler. They sprint their way now up through turn 6, that little kink, hard on the brakes. Then you've got the sort of S of 7 and 8 and the climb up to 9. Tamburini runs it wide up the curb, and as I say, he can't afford to take any more liberties with track limits. Reinhard Koffler was under investigation early on for not respecting race director instructions, but nothing has been heard about that since. So Koffler then third, and a bit closer here. Look at the end of the back straight. Down towards turn 10 they come. No sooner have I said that than Koffler gets a penalty. 5 seconds for Reinhard Koffler, again, for not respecting the race director instructions. So they've gone away and had a look at it, but Reinhard Koffler there gets a 5-second penalty. And again, it's for not respecting the instructions of the race director. Up through turn 14 comes Carlo Tamburini. Koffler is on his tail. and now close enough, I reckon, to have a go, but we'll see which is the better car in a straight line. You kind of assume the KTM is better on the twisty bits than the more powerful Maserati, but in fairness, Koffler is staying in the wheel tracks as they come now down towards turn 1. Both of them trying to eke out as much of their stint as they are able to before they give way to their co-drivers. Tamburini fending off Koffler here at the start of lap 14 in Barcelona. This is for second place, and Tamburini and Koffler both with a penalty to serve, running second and third on the road. Philippe Pret comes down the pit lane, and the AM leader, AM champion-elect, will have to serve the 10-second penalty that he has been afforded. So right now, it is for second place, Tamburini just ahead. Carlo Tamburini sitting with him as there. Philippe Pret's pit stop is timed. And it looked as though Philippe Pret was going to jump out of the car. They were going to put some fuel in it, so the car has to be empty to do that. So they've done the time penalty, got that out of the way, and then they can get on with the rest of the pit stop. So cut through all of the penalties and the shuffling of the order. Koffler is on his toes, up the inside of Tamburini at turn 10. Couldn't go through, but had a really good look, really good go there to try to squeeze through on the inside line. Again, the Maserati a little bit wider. Reinhard Koffler up on the inside line, trying to use the curb as well to his advantage. Can't really make that stick, and slots back in behind now as they drop down towards turn 14. As Tamburini goes for the pit lane, Koffler sweeps round the outside. He's going to be second at the end of the lap, because in a moment Tamburini will have to hit the brakes when he gets to the speed limit line, which he does now. So Koffler goes second, 6.5 seconds back from Andy Cantu. And that KTM with a 5-second time penalty hanging over it, that's going to affect it. But equally, the car that Andy Cantu is driving, the lead car, that's got 7 seconds of compensation time, not a penalty, but compensation time for its second place yesterday. Right, that is Carlo Tamburini into the pit lane. And they don't do anything because they will serve the penalty that that car has been afforded. So they'll get the penalty out of the way, and then the team can run forward, ready to get Leonardo Gorini on board. Philippe Pret leaves in the meantime. Tamburini walks away, and Leonardo Gorini, gets ready to jump into the car. So there, over the timing line, goes the KTM, which is the Simon Birch car. And there you've got Philippe Pret. Now that penalty, I reckon, is going to drop Pret behind Dominic Albert. So provisionally, I would offer you Dominic Albert now leads AM, and Philippe Pret has got to win the class come what may. So it looks as though on that pit stop with that penalty to be served, Philippe Pret will have lost his class lead, and now he's got to go after Dominic Albert. Leonardo Gorini gets set to rejoin, as there is Pret, but it's the car up the road, I think, is the interesting one. Dominic Albert, yes, is circulating ahead. So Philippe Pret there has got to go after the KTM, and it's quite a gap, isn't it? He's got 21 minutes to go as the leader comes in. So down the pit road comes Andy Cantu. Good stint that, and he's left it about as late as he can. Same for Reinhard Koffler, 45 seconds or so on the clock as they get to the pit stops. In also comes Hommler, in also comes Ben Schneider. So the leading 5 with Calamia in as well, make that 6. Benjamin Ricci, they're all in the pit lane. Anybody that hasn't pitted has got to be in now. And that includes Simon Birch to give way to Thomas Anderson. That's the Audi of Alfio Spina now rejoining. That goes back out on the tail of Leonardo Gorini. So the LP Racing stable cycling through different drivers, different cars, different brands as well. So up front, we'll see where Cantu rejoins, or that car rejoins, with Jörg Wiebahn at the wheel relative to the others. In the meantime, Dominic Albert has just gone across the timing line in number 90 KTM. Philippe Pret behind him. So the margin now between those two is 6.2 seconds. That's the KTM, the new AM class leader. And behind is Philippe Pret, who has got to get ahead of it. There's no argument to this. To win the championship, Philippe Pret has got to get through. Now, Dominic Albert is not slow either. So Philippe Pret is going to have to rise to the occasion here as the race comes into its final stint. Dominic Albert's been a GT4 regular for quite a few seasons, so he's a pretty experienced campaigner. Philippe Pret, likewise, has been around the block a few times, having been a double Ferrari Asia-Pacific champion when he was based out in Hong Kong. There in the Audi now, having taken over that car, is Gianluca Giorgi, who had a trip through the gravel yesterday. He's got Leonardo Guarini just up the road ahead of him. And as they accelerate down now towards turn 10, it's going to be a rather jumbled order at the end of the lap, with everybody rejoining, with those compensation times taken into account, with penalties taken into account as well. Down the pit road goes Jörg Wiebahn in the Mercedes that led coming in. Does it lead going back out? Looks as though it's just going to be able to hang on to the advantage. So Jörg Wiebahn rejoins the race. Martin Koch in the green KTM. Then you've got Lennart Marianek, Wim de Pundert, Mauro Ricci, and then going over the line, it is Leonardo Guarini. Oh, now that, I fear, from Mauro Ricci, is cutting the white line. That might get looked at. That might also from Roberto Pampanini. So drivers need to be careful about doing that if they get the line for the first corner. That was a bit marginal also from Thomas Anderson, but cutting the white line always used to be a real no-no. That might also come back to haunt one or two drivers. Track limit warnings for all cars have now been reset, and the gap between Albert and Pret is going up. 8 seconds now between the KTM and the Maserati. So Philippe Pret's chances might well be evaporating, as Dominic Albert, who had a spin in his stint yesterday, he's leading and getting away. And Albert did lead briefly yesterday's race outright, so we know that he's good. There's Jörg Wiebahn, who is also very good, very experienced racer, whether it's been in GT4 or GT2 machinery more recently. Done a lot of races as Jörg over the years, not just GT4 races, but also in terms of Nürburgring 24 hours and Bathurst 12 hours. He was a GT4 Europe champion back in 2016. That, number 80, is now Thomas Anderson, chasing after Roberto Pampanini. It's the similar coloured KTM that's the one to look for, though, as there you can see Mauro Ricci getting up past Wim de Pundert. So Ricci, with maybe that white line cut in the system to be looked at least gained track position over the Mercedes of Wim de Pundert here. Jörg Wiebahn, race leader, goes through, 17 minutes and counting. He's being chased by the new Pro-Am champion, Martin Koch, and right up behind him is Lennart Marianek. Then in 4th place now, Leonardo Guarini. 5th place, it is the Audi of Gianluca Giorgi, and in 6th spot going through, it's going to be then Wim de Pundert in the Mercedes, with Pampanini not that far behind now. Now there is the AM situation. Look at the gap, and it's growing. Through goes Dominic Albert. It was 6 seconds, then it was 8, and now it's 9.5. And this is really bad news for Philippe Pret, because not only has he lost the time with that penalty that he served on the pit stop, but the Maserati just does not look like it's able to respond. The last lap for Dominic Albert was a 47.1, and over a second slower was Philippe Pret. He needs Albert to have a moment or a problem, but in pure pace, it doesn't look as though the Maserati is going to be able to close, and therefore it looks like it's rather bad news as far as the championship situation is concerned for Philippe Pret. Lennart Marianek goes through, still on the tail of Martin Koch. These two fighting for 2nd and 3rd in the race, and of course in the Pro-Am class. The two KTMs accelerating then out of turn 13. So a KTM winning Pro-Am in the championship yesterday. A KTM won't win Am, but it might have a big say in the outcome of Am, given what's going on between Albert and Pret. Lennart Marianek then getting a little bit closer to Martin Koch. He's a more experienced driver, is Lennart Marianek in the black car behind, but Martin Koch able to fend him off as they come down towards turn 1 again. Still 4th, Leonardo Guarini. There are the KTMs up towards turn 3, chased by the drone. Great shot, that gives you an idea of the topography of the circuit and what's around it. There's an industrial zone in one direction, there's the port in another, and a very busy circuit this, for track days, for race meetings, for testing. And right now, second and third, Martin Koch and Lennart Marionek run through turn 4 together. Now, Leonardo Guarini is on a second track limit warning. And these two KTMs still run together. Just looking to see whether Dominic Olbert is incurring race officials' wrath. He's got one track limit warning, whereas Philippe Pret doesn't have any, and that might be his lifeline ultimately. So the leaders down towards turn 10. Currently we're on lap 18 with just under 14 minutes to go. Marionek looks to the inside, can't find a way through that. Martin Koch, who has really improved as a driver over the year, able to fend him off, but to the outside line goes Marionek on the climb up the hill, then up towards turn 12. Lennart Marionek round the outside, gets the job done, but he's in danger of running out wide. He's got his nose in front coming off the corner. He's going to secure that into turn 13. Really nicely done all the way around the outside through turns 11, 12 and 13 is where he gets it finally done. Comes into turn 14 now, up to complete lap 18 in second spot. Lennart Marionek then ahead of Martin Koch, chasing after Jörg Wiebahn. And we'll see what the starting gap is now between those two. 9.5 seconds between Wiebahn and the new second place man, Lennart Marionek. Wim de Punde dropping down the order. Thomas Anderson has gone past him in the red and white KTM there. And with Philippe Pret here, coming up towards the line, Dominic Olbert has also got himself up past Wim de Punde. So right now, this is not enough for Philippe Pret to win the championship. He would lose out by 5 points from Bobelik and Vanderlei, even though they've not done more than a lap, and that was into the pit lane. Now, Olbert is the best part of 9 seconds up the road. So unless Dominic Olbert has a problem, Philippe Pret is out of it. And it's, I'm afraid to say, not looked a very good race for Maserati collectively, because none of the cars have really sparkled. Carlo Tamburini faded away in his stint. Yesterday's winners, Pampanini and Calamia, they have never really been in the picture at all. And Philippe Pret, I thought, was happy to give away places in the first stint just to bank points. But actually, what kind of has happened is that I think he was losing pace anyway, and that's why the car was in jeopardy for those positions. He's not being able to fight back at all, and the laps are getting slower. Behind him is Alexandre Leroy, who is a fraction faster, but even so, he is another Maserati driver, not really in the hunt today. In the meantime, the cars come out of turn 10. This is Roberto Pampanini on the back of Mauro Ricci. This, therefore, the battle for 6th and 7th places. Pampanini then comes out of turn 12, looks for a gap on the inside, does not find one. Down they swing now out of turn 14, up towards the timing line again. And Mauro Ricci looking as though he might well lose out. However, the race leader, no, not the race leader, 88 being investigated now for overtaking outside the track. 88 is the Audi. So that is now Gianluca Giorgi under investigation for overtaking out of track. I wondered whether it was going to be Andy Cantu off the start when he had 2 wheels on the grass, but 88 is Gianluca Giorgi's Audi, and that is being looked at for possibly overtaking by being off the track. You might think that's brave, but race control tend to think of it as track limits. So see if we can trace the incident in question. And a time penalty of 5 seconds is being given to number 1. So it's another penalty. Leonardo Guarini exceeding track limits. The car is 4th, as you see there. Wim de Punde and Philippe Pret together. Pret goes through, but that doesn't really help life because that's only a Pro-Am car that he's passed, so he doesn't gain any extra points for doing that. And again, the car that's being penalised up the road is in the wrong category to help him. So Philippe Pret gains a place in the overall classification, but doesn't gain anything in terms of points for his championship quest. So I suppose it's equality, isn't it? Each of the 2 drivers aboard number 1 gets a track limit penalty. Carlo Tamburini did it in his stint now. There, Leonardo Guarini in his. Through goes then number 1 once again. Past the pits goes Guarini. Now 5 seconds. Where will that drop him to? It's going to lose him a couple of places, as you see the Maserati onto the pit straight, because Gianluca Giorgi, who is behind, will benefit, and possibly as well the KTM of Dominic Albert. And Dominic Albert is absolutely flying. He's up into the top 6 now, so he's got past Pampanini and he's got past Ricci. So there, Dominic Albert illustrating what he showed at the start of yesterday's race, although what happened yesterday was the car seemed to cut out on the way down towards turn 10, and he had to stop and do a reset and then able to rejoin. If that happens today, that's going to help Philippe Pret. But right now, Dominic Albert is absolutely flying. Andy Cantu, in the meantime, the man that has the fastest lap of the race to his name from earlier on. And there, Pampanini ahead of Mauro Ricci, ahead of Thomas Anderson. They are 7th, 8th, 9th, going up through turn 4. So Dominic Albert really flying. Arthur Kvist lost time in his stint, but was the first into the pit lane. So Albert was able to get into the car well ahead of others of the 2 driver entries, and he's putting all of that track time now to good use. Albert chases after Gianluca Giorgi, way off the road though there, going out of turn 7. That shows you how hard Dominic Albert is charging on. But although an AM win in the race could be his for the taking, in doing so, what that it will do is to deprive Philippe Pret of the title, and of course in the process give it to Jean-Luc Beaubelique and Gilles Vandelet, who are watching this no doubt nervously in the garages, unable to do anything, unable to race, but just hoping and hoping and hoping that somebody's able to beat Philippe Pret, and that's exactly the situation right now. Dominic Albert has not had a win all season. It's been a tough year in the races that he shared with Dennis Liebel. But right now, it's going nicely for him as the leader goes through then. So Jörg Wiebahn is 6 seconds clear of Lennart Marianek, whose last lap was quicker. So the gap's coming down between the top 2 with 7.5 minutes to go. Martin Koch runs 3rd. 4th is Leonardo Guarini on the road. 5th here, Gianluca Giorgi. Dominic Albert up behind him. So it's an LP Racing Audi that he's got to get past. And it's a LP Racing Maserati that wants to win the class in the championship. So I'm not suggesting for a moment that Gianluca Giorgi would do anything untoward. But Dominic Albert in the KTM looking for a way round. He's got the pace, hasn't he? Because he's caught right up behind the Audis, all up the curb, coming down towards turn 4, looking perhaps to go wide in and tight out and get up the inside. But Dominic Albert's car that started on the back row of the grid, he has been one of the heroes of this stint, that's for sure. Great pace, and looking to try and squeeze up the inside of the Audi, heading down now through the kink at 6, and then the 7-8 flick that brings them up the hill, and that's where he ran off the road a lap ago. Dominic Albert trying every side he can to try to outfox Gianluca Giorgi. The Audi looking a much bigger car than the low-line KTM with that up and forward bodywork for the driver changes. He's up the curb at turn 9 is Dominic Albert. But right now, Gianluca Giorgi able to fend him off as they head again down the back straight into turn 10. Albert thinks about a move, lines up, goes through. Can he get the car stopped in time, though? The answer is yes. Nicely done by Dominic Albert. Through on the inside line, picks up the place. And now, as they accelerate their way up through the long right-hander of turn 12, straight away, Dominic Albert is able to escape up the road. And the Audi is also being given a penalty, 5-second penalty to number 88 for overtaking out of the track. So by overtaking the wrong side of the white line, car 88, Gianluca Giorgi, being given a penalty from the stewards. So we've got just over 5 minutes of the race to go, and this is the leader, Jörg Wiebahn. But the gap's coming down. Wiebahn gets just a little bit crossed up there, going down towards turn 5. Lennart Marianek hustling on behind him. So the gap down to 4 seconds with 5 minutes to go. It is coming down at about 2 seconds over that last lap, for example. So it's a significant gain, lap on lap, that Marianek is being able to produce. Confirmation of those last lap times and who the quicker driver was, and it's Lennart Marianek all the way as he tries to catch back up. That car actually had to serve a slightly shorter pit stop, but Atta Hommler had lost pace in the opening stint while Andy Cantu was away up the road. But for the leader, he's going to be able to get 2 more laps out of it, maybe 3. And of course, the more laps available, the more that rather helps Marianek by getting closer. Through turn 14, the car will come in a moment, up towards the timing line of Andy Cantu. Now Jörg Wiebahn behind the wheel. There, in second place, then Lennart Marianek using his GT3 experience to good use as he goes very wide out of turn 14, goes over the timing line now, and the margin was 4 seconds. It's now 3.2. It's another significant gain, not as big, but big enough to still make Jörg Wiebahn a bit nervous with over 4 minutes to go, and they're lapping at the 1:48. So I still think Marianek's going to get up there before the end of the race. Through turns, the KTM that comes from the RTR Project stable, and the local NM racing team runs that Mercedes, the Barcelona team, for Jörg Wiebahn and Andy Cantu that leads the way. Wiebahn behind the wheel. From turn 5 goes the race leader. So Jörg Wiebahn, Lennart Marianek behind him. And as the field come now through turn 7, that marker is up the road. Hubert Trunkenpolz is going to be negotiated shortly by the race leaders. And there it is. So that's the car that hopefully is going to be aware of the pace of the leaders, be able to get out of the way so as not to impede Jörg Wiebahn, who right now needs to try to squeeze everything he possibly can out of this lap. The clock ticks on down. We've got 3 minutes to go, but there's still going to be time for 2 more laps, I reckon. So Wiebahn ahead of Marianek, the gap coming down all the while between them. Out of turn 12 they come. The KTM getting closer and closer and closer all the time. So what can Jörg Wiebahn do? Even if he's caught, he has the advantage of being able to defend, I guess. He's able to move the car around a little bit more and try and fend off that challenge of Marianek. And the gap now, with this lap and 1 more to go, 1.3 seconds. So Marianek is most definitely going to close, but then Wiebahn has got to make that Mercedes as wide as possible. And the NM Racing team asking that Hubert Trunkenpolz is aware of the leaders bearing down on him, because he can't afford to lose even a fraction of a second right now. There'll be 1 more lap to go at the end of this. And Jörg Wiebahn it is then, still in the lead. But that margin is coming down and down and down. Martin Koch runs in 3rd place still in number 812. Leonardo Guarini 4th on the road, but with a penalty. And you can see how much closer they've got as Philippe Pret now comes up to get past Roberto Pampanini, but none of this is really helping him because he's getting past Pro-Am cars, not Am-class cars. The Am leader, Dominic Olbert, is a long way up the road. So the race leader is currently on lap 25, and it is Jörg Wiebahn. But is he going to lead at the end of lap 26? Down towards turn 10 they come. It's going to be very, very close indeed, this race finish now, because as you can see, Marianek is right up behind Wiebahn. The car a little bit nervous out of turn 10, and dare one feel the pressure for Jörg Wiebahn now, because he's starting just to make tiny little mistakes. He's looking in the mirrors. He's conscious of exactly how close Lennart Marianek is. Let's see first up which has got more grunt in a straight line, as Wiebahn then, he's about to start the last lap under pressure. The car has led all the way, but can it lead for 1 more lap? It is not going to be easy, that is for sure. Over the line they go. So up front it is Jörg Wiebahn. The margin, 0.2 of a second, that's all, going down towards turn 1. Marianek right up behind him as they turn now through turn 2, turn 3, road climbs here. You can see how much nearer the KTM is getting all the while. And Jörg Wiebahn just has to defend as best he can as Marianek looks up the inside, then coming down towards turn 4, but the Mercedes has just enough grunt in a straight line. Marianek looks on the inside under braking, no way through there either. 14 corners to the track, 4 of them done. Marianek goes a little bit wide as he puts down the power, coming towards turn 5. Switches sides, wide in, tight out. Wiebahn, though, will try to cover off the inside line. Nose to tail, they make that run now down the hill, and the Mercedes escapes by length, that's all. Jörg Wiebahn has got to be so precise here. Really tough last lap for him. Again, the car quivers as he gets his foot to the throttle up towards turn 9. Marionette running out of corners. Which is going to be better in a straight line? It's the Mercedes, I suspect, that is better suited to this part of the circuit, but Marionette was able to make his challenge here a lap ago with some very good late braking. Through the corner comes Vebahn. He's going to try to cover off that inside line. Turn 10 sort of takes you into 11. It's a long left, but I reckon now Vebahn has possibly done just about enough. Lennart Marionette is closer again, but there aren't really any more opportunities. He's not near enough to dive through at turn 13. One more corner to go, and so Jörg Vebahn looks as though he's just about going to do it then as they come off the corner. They head up now towards the timing line. Jörg Vebahn with Lennart Marionette way out wide into the dust. They come up towards the line. It's a win for Jörg Vebahn and Andy Cantu. Second for Lennart Marionette and Matto Homola. The gap at the flag, 0.3 of a second, that's all. Great finish to the season in Fanatec GT2 European Series. That car, Dominic Olbert, is going to be 4th overall. He's got himself ahead of Leonardo Guarini on the last lap. So brilliant job done by Dominic Olbert, except it hurts Philippe Pret because it means that Pret doesn't win. And so the AM Championship is going to go the way of Jean-Luc Beaubelique and Gilles Vannelet, despite their travails on the opening lap. They've had a nervous 50 minutes. Philippe Pret brings the car across the line. He will finish second in class, but the championship is not going to be his. Great effort, though, by this man, Jörg Vebahn, to fend off all of the attack, all of the pressure that was coming from behind towards the end of that race. Jörg Vebahn fending off Lennart Marionette's efforts, and doing so impressively. And at the end of a great season of which GT2 racing continues to go from strength to strength, 0.3 of a second as the margin, showing how competitive the category is. And there's an enormous sigh of relief, I think, coming out of the Acodis ASP garage, where Gilles Vannelet and Jean-Luc Beaubelique have been watching the race. As there, Jörg Vebahn runs a little bit wide, gets some pickup on the tyres at least for the weight of the car. So in Pro-Am, Jörg Vebahn and Andy Cantu the winners from Lennart Marionette and Matto Homola, and third, yet again on the podium, Martin Koch and Reinhard Koffler. 26 laps of drama and a win for Jörg Vebahn and Andy Cantu from Lennart Marionette and Matto Homola second, and the Pro-Am champions Martin Koch and Reinhard Koffler take third. Dominic Olbert with newcomer Arthur Kvist wins Am. 5th overall Leonardo Guarini and Carlo Tamburini. 6th Gianluca Giorgi and Alfio Spina. Philippe Pret second in Am, not enough to win the championship. Thomas Anderson and Simon Birch next from yesterday's winners, Roberto Pampanini and Mauro Calamia. And third of the Ams, 10th overall, Alexandre Leroy. The reaches were 11th, Klaus Angerhofer 12th with Seti Samani. Wim de Punde dropped away, he was 13th with Ben Schneider, ahead of Hubert Trunkenpolz and Laura Kreimer. And Gilles Vannelet, Jean-Luc Beaubelique, and also Christophe Bourret and Pascal Gimon, both out of the race, effectively at turn 1. So, plenty of drama all the way through the final GT2 race of the season. And as the drivers then make their way down the pit road, no doubt it's going to be another dramatic season next year, with the optimism of yet more cars and more teams coming in. Pretty much anybody that drops into the championship likes it, and we've had an awful lot of drivers coming in and out this year, seeing what the championship is like, and we look forward to bigger grids again, but it's been fascinating to see how the championship has panned out this year. And at the start of the season, Carlo Tamburini and Leonardo Guarini looked as though they were going to be the drivers to beat, but in the end it was something different. It was the KTM drivers that came through victorious. Andy Cantu was a happy man as he puts his cap on. Jörg Vebahn joins the celebrations for that win. And a home win as well for the team, NM Racing, the Spanish team. So Jörg Vebahn, Andy Cantu Very happy indeed. It's been a tough season for Jörg Wiebahn. He's been there or thereabouts for much of the year, but to round it out with a win, it all suddenly becomes worthwhile. And he didn't luck into that. He had to work really hard. Andy Cantu gave him the car in the lead, but of course it was a longer pit stop with the compensation time, and he had to fend off that challenge of Lennart Marianek all the way to the end. So a really impressive job done by Jörg Wiebahn. So the drivers very shortly will make their way up to the podium. And Philippe Pret will be getting the news that Dominic Albert is class winner and therefore not a champion, Philippe Pret. But a delighted Jörg Wiebahn and Andy Cantu are with Antonia.
Jörg, Andy, what a brilliant way to end the season. You held on really well at the end there.
Oh yeah, that was a tough fight. We knew that we have to have a certain distance to the second for the second stint because the tires are really going down with that heavy car. And he did an amazing start. I loved it. The grass, that was really boom. Yeah, big balls. I'm very happy about this.
And, yeah, that was amazing. Yeah, the start was there was a little gap, so you have to take it.
You're not a racing driver if you don't go for the gap, are you, guys? Congratulations. Go celebrate.
Thank you, guys.
So Andy Cantu with his rally crossing off the start, just 2 wheels on the grass, but he wasn't really given any option. Getting a bit of a squeeze. So well done to Andy Cantu, first GT2 win. Might even be his first win in Europe, outright win, so bravo. And Jörg Wiebahn taking second place, taking the win with him after many, many years of success in GT4, rounding out a good first year in GT2. Reinhard Koffler, Martin Koch, champions in Pro-Am as well.
Reini, Martin, what a season it's been for you. You've been so dominant in your class.
Actually, yes. I mean, we only missed one podium, the one yesterday, right? Just due to the rain race and everything went crazy on my car. But finally we did it again, the last podium, the last race. Very happy. I mean, it means a lot to me, and it's been a great succeed. I don't have words. It's incredible. It's like a boy's dream coming true.
Yeah, I mean, I just can say the same words. It's like a dream season with 5 victories, winning the championship already in the penultimate round. So, yeah, I want to take the opportunity again to thanks to MZR Motorsports and Reed, which did a great job. I mean, we don't had one technical issue. We were always on point, fast. And thanks to KTM to give us the fast GT2 car. And, yeah, we will fight again and hope to repeat it.
Congratulations, our Pro-Am champions. Well done.
Thank you.
The AM champions are somewhere in the pit lane. Jean-Luc Beaubelic and Gilles Vandelay, who possibly can't quite believe their luck after all of that. But in the Pro-Am classification for the season, Reinhard Koffler and Martin Koch, the champions from Leonardo Guarini and Carlo Tamburini. Thomas Anderson and Simon Birch banked points when they could. They were third, and Matto Hommler next, with the absent Loris Hesmans behind in the final championship standings. So the drivers shortly will make their way up to the podium. A very busy day here, and with the timetable having lost an hour early on, cars quickly being rattled through to the next race. Lamborghini Super Trofeo, McLaren Trophy Europe here as well, and of course the deciding round of Fanatec GT World Challenge Europe. A brilliant start by Andy Cantu with 2 wheels on the dirt, contrasted with the contact that came between Carlo Tamburini and Matto Hommler. They all survived going into turn 1, but the drama came a little bit further back as Jean-Luc Beaubelic ran off the road, and as he rejoined, made solid contact with Pascal Gibon's Mercedes. Philippe Pret went off the road as well, rejoined in the wrong place and copped a penalty as the incident between the 2 Mercedes put them out. It looked as though that was the championship hopes gone for Vandelay and Beaubelic, but Philippe Pret picked up a penalty for rejoining in the wrong place at turn 1, and that gave a lifeline to the troubled Mercedes partnership. Ben Schneider, though, was looking good early on as he wriggled his way through the traffic, gaining ground on the climb up towards turn 11. At the pit window, Andy Cantu brought the leading Mercedes in clear in the lead. It was a 7-second extra time to be served after yesterday's result, as off the road went number 1, the Leonardo Guarini Carlo Tamburini Maserati, having a really busy race. Both drivers being given track limit penalties before the end. Dominic Albert was on a massive mission as well. He put himself into the lead of the AM class, and in so doing denied Philippe Pret a chance to score honours as the KTM battle raged on track. Lennart Marionette getting himself up and past Martin Koch, and then he set off in pursuit of the leader Jörg Wiebahn, and he brought the gap right down. Starting the last lap, they were nose to tail, and Wiebahn hung on to win the race, but only just, the margin being 0.3 of a second. So the podium is ready, and the drivers in a moment will be brought forward. You can see the cars being held at the bottom in Parc Fermé conditions, ready for the SRO technical team to have a look and make sure all is good. And a really good race that to end the GT2 season. Yes, I know there are a few penalties floating around, but even so, good racing and a really dramatic finish as well, which is great to see. The Barcelona shaped podium, the track map mirrored on the podium, and the backdrop, which is a giant screen for the fans in the grandstand, also then doubles up as the podium backdrop, which is a really neat idea. So I think drivers are ready. You can see the local officials ready to call them forward. The teams stand at the foot of the podium, and the race direction team looking to get things moving because another race starts in not that many minutes' time. So out to the podium come Reinhard Koffler and Martin Koch, as you see confirmation of the AM standings. Jean-Luc Boblic and Gilles Vannelet winning by 5 points, even though the car retired at the end of the first lap. Philippe Pret losing the class win means he loses the championship. So there for the podium, Reinhard Koffler and Martin Koch. They are joined in turn by Lennart Marionach and by Matto Hommela. The winning team is the NM Racing team. That will be represented on the podium too. And then the winning drivers will step forward, and they are Andy Cantu and Jörg Wiebahn, who come forward. Andy Cantu in the white overalls, Jörg Wiebahn behind him. Andy Cantu was driven for NM in the GT4 European Series. He wins in GT2, and he makes his way to the top step of the podium, victorious here in Spain. The trophy is then to be presented to the winning drivers, Pirelli tyres on which they run, and it's Pirelli representative that will do the presentation for the new Pro-Am champions, and another podium. Only once have they not been in that top 3, and that was yesterday. So although a podium didn't come, a championship did instead. Bravo, Reinhard Koffler and Martin Koch as they finish 3rd. The trophies for 2nd for Lennart Marionach and for Matto Hommela. The team's trophy goes the way of NM Racing Team. And then at the other end of the podium, they will be the winners, Andy Cantu and Jörg Wiebahn, who take honours at the end of not only a dramatic race, but also a fascinating season for the GT2 European Series powered by Pirelli. And there'll be more drama from GT2 in 2025.